It's 11:08 at WPSL 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast. And you're on Never Alone from Harbor Place. The young lady who will be there to meet you, and that is Ms. Pat Miles. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, Greg. How are you this lovely morning?
Well, we are doing great. And I know Jack always talks about you are probably the first contact for a lot of families who want to take a tour of the facility.
Yes, I am. I've actually been here at Harbor Place for 12 years.
Wow, that's amazing. That tells you something about the organization.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful place to work. It's the residents that make our community, um, their families, getting to know them and building relationships. It's wonderful. That's why I love my job.
Well, tell us a little bit about what's going on there. I know Jack was talking about the Wreaths event that will be coming up very, very soon.
Yes, that's a live auction that we're going to have this year. Last year we did a Zoom and did very well, and the benefits actually went to the Southeast Florida Honor Flight. This year, the proceeds will be going to the Alzheimer's Association. So we have professionals that are donating wreaths, and we are going to do a live auction in our beautiful meeting room in the back on December 2nd.
Okay, I was going to ask you, did you come up with a date yet? Okay, so December 2. That's awesome. That's really amazing. Well, seriously, when people, if they're interested, and I know a lot of folks are out driving around right now, and thinking maybe about their parents, maybe about themselves, and another thing Jack mentioned too is, we've got folks who are still working that live at Harbor Place.
That's correct. We do. We do. They do work part-time out and about in the community, but they love the idea of coming back and not having to worry about mowing the lawn or cleaning the house or doing repairs, because if a light bulb goes out, all they have to do is call maintenance. Call downstairs and they'll come up and bring a light bulb and replace it for them.
Sounding good. Have you got my padded room yet?
I do.
Oh, you must have talked to Carol. Oh.
We have another event coming up too in November 18th at 2:00. It's called Eating Healthy as You Age.
Ooh.
So we have a Dr. Miriam Vassar. She's coming. She's going to be talking about different types of food, healthy food choices as you age, and the impact of certain foods that cause the most common medical conditions. So
Wow.
it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, that sounds great. Because various types of foods do change your body as you get a little bit older.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Dr. Watt should be joining us shortly.
Yeah, actually, he is with us. He'll be popping up anytime soon, as a matter of fact.
Oh, I see.
He is preparing to join us right now, as a matter of fact. I think he's there. He is. Okay. Yep, he's ready to go. Let's see if we've got his audio. Not quite yet, but
I got it. Hey, how are you?
Hey, doctor, how are
Hey,
you?
good morning.
Good.
You're on with Pat.
Oh, hey, Pat.
Hi, Dr. Watt. How are you?
Good. So what did you talk about while I was gone?
We were talking about some upcoming events at Harbor Place that we're having.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I heard you're having like a veteran ceremony.
Yeah, that's on November 11th for our residents. Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's something that Pat was mentioning that you're going to have on the 18th is the discussion of healthy foods for seniors. And boy, that is so important.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Foods are predominantly not only curative, but preventative too, from most conditions and disorders.
Hey, Dr. Watt, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
I wanted to talk about strokes and
Sure.
strokes, warning signs, especially for women. Women and men are so different in, and how strokes happen.
Well, strokes happen because of two ways. You can have, if you have a history of high blood pressure, you can have a stroke in which your blood vessels in your brain, because they're small, they can only take a certain amount of pressure. So if the pressure rises for a long period of time, those vessels, just like pipes and hoses, burst. And that's what they call a hemorrhagic stroke. The other type of stroke is what they call a ischemic stroke, where over time, if you eat a lot of, if your cholesterol is high and you build up plaque in your arteries, and that plaque, just like a bad pipe, if you cut open a bad pipe, you got all this crud in the pipe. Eventually, if there's too much plaque buildup, what will happen is there's going to be a lack of blood flow in that area, and that's what causes a stroke. Now, those types of strokes are slow and gradual. So over time, you're going to get warning shots with those kind of strokes. They call them TIAs, or mini strokes. That typically happens before you get, the big one. Just like with your heart. Most people with heart disease, because because you have blockages in your brain, you also get blockages in your heart and your lower extremities. So most people that tend to have strokes tend to have heart attacks, tend to have what they call peripheral vascular disease as well, because if they eat a lot of cholesterol and they develop a lot of plaques, it's not just in one area, it's typically in other areas of the body. And what happens there is, as well, most people that have a heart attack have likely had what they call angina, or just this kind of like transient chest pain, every now and again, and they just kind of ignore it. And what they didn't realize is that was the warning shot before the big one, so to speak.
Well, my mom used to say I was walking, talking angina to her. No, it's an Italian mother. What can I say?
But the big warning, I think that the even though they're different, the presentations, they all have the same symptoms depending on the area of the brain that's affected. Like, so if there's damage to a certain part of the brain, you may get, for example, like a droop in one side of the face comparison to the other. Another one would be slurred speech that you normally talk. You don't normally have slurred speech. Somebody may say, "Oh, why are you slurring your words today?" Or it could be a vision problem. You may not be able to see properly. When your eyesight's normally 20/20, and then all of a sudden, so any drastic change in your I would say your functions, whether it's your taste, your smell, your eyesight, your vision, and your facial expressions and things like that. Anything drastic is an early sign of a stroke.
And to get help quicker, correct?
Right. So you have a window. Believe it or not, it's typically a 4-hour window before you can, because the thing about it is, the longer the brain does not have any oxygen. Remember, there's no oxygen, because of either the blockage or the fact that that pipe burst. There is no blood flow to that area. So what happens is that you have hours to save that tissue, because once that tissue is gone, it's gone forever. And so the goal is to get what they call perfusion, or to get blood to that area. And the only way to do that is to go to a hospital. And in one case, if there's blockages, to get what they call a clot buster, which is TPA. to kind of open that area up so that you can get blood flow to it. And then the other area would be to get a neurosurgeon or a neurointerventionalist to provide blood flow into the area that burst. So you have time as tissue. That's why all these early signs are very important. How long those things have been going on. So if you have a droop in your face, don't wait till tomorrow or the next day. Make sure you go to the hospital right away.
Doctor, you talk about that those areas will not grow back. If you look at your skin, that does grow back. So why wouldn't those organs do that?
Well, there's some organs that can, nerves, for whatever reason, the way that, if I'm offending anybody, I apologize, but I'm a Christian, but God just made us that way. There's certain systems and organs that do regenerate, and there's some that don't. And the nervous system is one of them. Now you can form new connections. That's why when you have a massive stroke and, let's just say that there's that intervention, it's too late. They try to form new connections in your brain. It's not that they're regenerating. They're just, all the neurons that are still there kind of form newer connections to help, with that, with the deficiency. That's the best way to put it. And so there is no regrowth. If those nerves die, they die, and they don't regenerate in any kind of way. Well, they do. They have this thing called Wallerian regeneration, but it's not the same thing. It's like it's not the same thing as your skin per se. That you just develop a whole new set of skin. Unfortunately, that's just the way that God designed us. And that, we have a certain amount of brain tissue, and when it goes, it goes. If we are able to figure out a way to regenerate nerve tissue, then we would cure Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's and Huntington. And, unfortunately, we don't have that technology, or God hasn't shown us, so to speak. So.
Yeah, but I'll bet that's coming down the line. I mean, things have changed.
Well, yeah, they have with stem cell research, they're thinking that they can help regenerate some nerve tissue. But again, they've tried. They said they've tried before, and unfortunately, it doesn't kind of stick. What they used to do back in 10 years ago. They tried to directly inject stem cells into the part of the brain that causes Alzheimer's, which is in the substantia nigra, these what they call dopaminergic receptors in the substantia nigra. They actually injected stem cells into that area, hoping that they would grow more tissue, but unfortunately, it just didn't pan out, and nobody knows why, but hopefully we'll get there. Not anytime soon, but we, hopefully in the near future, my kids' future or your kids, we'll get there.
Yeah, I just think the field of medicine now has changed so rapidly. I know in talking with our orthopedic surgeons every Wednesday, it's like, wow, something seems to be coming down the pike all the time. And your field is just absolutely fascinating now.
Oh yeah, they've, I'm sure they can build a whole new body, if with all the right money and technology. We have the technology, we can actually build a new human being. We could, because because of the stem cells. And have you ever heard of CRISPR therapy? CRISPR? It's apparently this is technology in which they can actually take out a bad gene and put a new one in, and basically change the genetic code for that particular individual.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I think it was developed at MIT. But yeah, they have the technology is there for almost anything. I guess with the right money and funding, they can pretty much do anything they want. From what I understand, other than nerve cells, that's something that we haven't figured out yet. Not only we haven't figured out how do nerve cells interact with each other to actually think. That's the other thing. I mean, you could develop more brain tissue in a particular area, but how do you tell that those new brain cells work together and form a memory and make him smarter, or that's what drives that. We don't know. We still don't have the answer to that question. How does the brain actually work, in which it takes and carries a signal, stores memory, loves, and hates, and we don't know. We know what part of the brain handles it, but we don't know how it works, unfortunately. So yeah, so that's the next part. And that's why I said that's the God factor. We could build the whole body, but we can't put the soul in it to kind of like make it think and do for its own, Unfortunately, we haven't got to that technology yet.
And I think the good thing, Pat, about your place at Harbor Place is the fact that Dr. Watt is a regular there, and your residents can pick his brain, to say the least, as far as their medical treatment. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. We are so grateful that he is with us.
Thanks, Pat.
So tell me a little bit more about blood clots. My mom had a stroke, and they said it was a clot that went.
So yeah, that's an embolic stroke. It's a little different. So what happens is that you could develop with an irregular heartbeat. You could develop clots in the chamber of your heart. Okay, the one that's notorious is called atrial fibrillation. So when you have atrial fibrillation, it's when the atrium, because there's 4 chambers of your heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 ventricles at the bottom and 2 atria at the top. And what happens is that when the atria fibrillate, meaning that it doesn't like go lub dub lub, it goes blah, 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 and because it goes so fast, it's not able to contract fully or relax fully. So what happens is that it's almost like a standstill. And what happens with blood that sits still, blood clots when it stands still. It has to keep moving in order for it not to clot. So when blood stands still, it clots, and that's what happens. These clots develop in these chambers, and then sometimes, God forbid, the patient's chamber just does a good full contraction. Now that blood clot starts traveling, and it travels from the heart into the brain and gets stuck there. And that's what they call an embolic stroke, or a stroke from a blood clot. And, and the reverse can happen in your lower extremities, like your legs. Like if you take a long plane ride to Beijing or something like that, and you don't move, you don't get up and walk, there's a chance that you could form a clot in your legs. And then when you get up and walk and the blood starts pumping, that clot moves into your lungs. And that's what they call a pulmonary embolism. And that's what the clots is. That's why your bodies, once you get up out of bed in the morning, bodies should be in motion. It's not normal for people to stay in bed days on end, because this is the reality. You could form blood clots. If you have some sort of irregular heartbeat, you could also form blood clots there. And they normally put patients on blood thinners once they determine that you have an irregular heartbeat, where you have what they call atrial fibrillation. So I'm not 100% sure about your mom's situation, but if she had an irregular heartbeat, she should have been on a blood thinner.
Yeah, she was. She had a pacemaker also.
A pacemaker defibrillator? Okay.
Yeah, she had that.
Okay, so it's unfortunate, but I think that then somehow the blood thinner wasn't enough, and she formed the clot anyway, and it, obviously it traveled and went to her brain. but
Mhm.
how is she now? I mean, what?
She passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, that's okay. I was just, kind of, I always think about it and how it happens and why.
Right, right. Yeah, it's in that irregular heartbeat, like atrial fibrillation, it could be a million causes. I mean, it
Mhm.
could be a blood pressure issue, it could be a drug sometimes that causes it. It could
Mhm.
be hereditary, it could be, alcohol, it could be different other things.
Mhm.
There's no, we haven't pinpointed it, I mean, yet exactly specifically how it causes it and what we can do to fix it. Sometimes what they can do, they can try to, what they do cardioversion, they can attempt to shock the heart, and
Mhm.
it's the most, I guess, uh how should I, it's so shocking for the patients because your heart actually has to stop and then restart again in
Mm.
order for it to, yeah. So
Oh
you can
boy.
imagine you're awake and your heart just automatically stops and
Mm.
they restart your heart again.
Oh
And,
gosh.
if you don't give that disclaimer, you can see the anxiety on a patient's face when you give the drug and all of a sudden, boom, it stops, and then restart.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that needless to say, that would be quite the shock. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. But does it, and that works most of the time?
It can, but again, it's the older you are, is the less likely that it'll work. I think the younger the patient is, they have a higher chance of what they call cardioversion, where they go back to a normal rhythm and stay there.
Mm.
Because it is an electrical thing, the heart, and as you get older, these electrical system of the heart is a lot older too, and it's least likely to be fixed, on just our intervention. So the older you are, the less likely it is to cardiovert. But um, and that's why, for example, they do the pacemaker defibrillator if they're not able to control the rates and everything else as you go older.
Mhm.
So it's and you get older, it gets a little bit more complicated, and that's the best way to put it. I mean, unfortunately, we couldn't, I guess, help your mom in her scenario, but there are means and methods of treatment for that.
So that is, no, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, no, I just that's a doctor, you are a wealth of information. I know you were the first time you came on here. It's just truly amazing. But once again, Pat, I guess your residents, how many residents actually take advantage of Dr. Watt now?
Well, we're growing.
Right. I guess the word's got to get out there more.
Yes.
I've been checking up. I mean, so far I haven't had many that I have residents there, but I haven't had many because I check every Thursday. When I come there, around every Thursday, once a week. But I guess once the word gets out, I'm sure it'll get a little busier. But I haven't had many so far. Hopefully, the word gets out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I think the fact that you are available there every Thursday is really phenomenal. And yeah, the word's going to get out. There's no doubt about it.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then having you join us here on this radio show is another way of getting that word out that you're here with us.
Yeah, it's awesome. I like the topics. I mean, it's great. Do you typically get any callers that have any questions?
Well, it's funny. When Harbor Place was on, maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that. We were getting calls. I don't know if you feel like taking calls, we can do that, Pat. If that's what you want to do, we can open the phone lines if you'd like.
Sure, why not?
Okay, 340-1590, 340-1590. You can ask a question of Pat Miles and also Dr. Watt. So they're here to answer your questions. I think the thing that we're starting to hear a lot about seems to be Parkinson's. I know some former athlete friends of mine who are relatively, I would say, relatively young, former NFL stars who have developed Parkinson's.
Yeah, I've a lot of coaches. I think there's a few coaches now that I know of that have developed Parkinson's. Now, Parkinson's is very strange. You know, sometimes people, they can acquire it. You know, there's certain drugs that can cause it, and then there's some hereditary. There's so many components of, you know, whether it's genetic, environmental, and some drugs, especially psychiatric drugs, that cause Parkinson's disease. So it's so multifactorial. It's hard to, I guess, pinpoint exactly what causes it.
Dr. Watt, but how is, I also heard that it's hard to diagnose.
It's extremely hard to diagnose. There are actually, you know, a lot of people, like, for example, there's some patients that we diagnose with Parkinson's disease that they end up having, like, for example, normal pressure hydrocephalus. And it's the actual normal pressure hydrocephalus that's causing the movement, you know, disorder and the symptoms of Parkinson's, but it's not. So sometimes people even diagnose Parkinson's and it's something totally different, and vice versa. You know, so it's a very hard to diagnose. It takes a very seasoned neurologist and doctor to actually diagnose Parkinson's.
You know, there's yet another, aside from Parkinson's, some of the problems, especially in the NFL, with the plastic carpets, as I call them, the AstroTurf, and a lot of players who have played on them, especially in the 80s and 90s, have come down with very rare cases of cancer. And that is totally shocking, that they can pick that up playing those artificial surfaces.
Again, like I said, there's an environmental chemical component to a lot of these neuro degenerative disorders. It doesn't always have to be genetic, you know, and also, you know, drugs can also be commonplace, you know, in some of these disorders.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it really, it is fascinating. But tell us about the elder population. I can look in the mirror and say that. And some of the unique stuff that we run into as senior citizens.
Well, I think the big part of strokes and dementia, you know, what is, and the hard part is that, you know, is this dementia, or just, you know, as we get older, you know, our memory doesn't get as good as it used to be. And sometimes, you know, I guess I find some of my patients are misdiagnosed, just being, you know, oh, he has mild dementia or something like that. And you know, they may be depressed. A lot of times, sometimes, you know, as my patients get older and they get a lot of these disorders like high blood pressure, they get maybe they develop a stroke, they have more medical problems because of their age. A lot of them have this period of feeling depressed because they're used to taking care of themselves, going out, jet setting, doing this and that, and they're stuck, I guess, you know, not being able to do the things that they used to do. And so, because depression is so common, you know, it's perceived as dementia, as opposed to, you know, and I think that the mental illness in the elderly is very common. And that's what I was talking about, like all these, that's the number one, I would say that would be the number one diagnosis in the elderly. Anybody over the age of 65, 70 years old, that is the most common diagnosis, and it's the most misdiagnosis, I would say.
That's what the, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's what's so nice about being in a community like ours.
Oh yeah, and it's beautiful because there's a social aspect to it. Them being somewhere where they can't interact, they don't have any friends, they don't have any family, but at least in a situation like this, they get to socialize and they form bonds and friendships, and they know, and I think that's a great atmosphere. I think more people should take advantage of that, because again, and I'm not going to go into numbers, but I think that the cost is reasonable, for what you get, 24-hour care and meals, and if you see the place, it's gorgeous. It's got two waterfalls. I thought that was like in Dunsborough Falls in Jamaica.
It's beautiful.
But for the cost, it's so reasonable, and again, like I said, keeps them social, and they have activities, and it's not jet setting to Brazil, but I mean, at least it's something that they can do, as opposed to just sitting in a room or at the house watching TV all day in a lounge chair, and so I think it's a great facility, but apart from that, in general, like I say, that a lot of patients, as they get older and they become less, what do you call it, mobile, or they have less activities as they used to when they were younger, they get very depressed and they start manifesting, these symptoms, memory loss.
And that's very interesting you say that, because I remember when my mom finally decided to give up her car, and she was an LA kid, and that she had been driving from the time she was like 15 years old, but there again, she was living by herself, and Carol and I tried to get her to take advantage of a community, but she just wanted to be on her own, and I get that too. But that isolation, as you mentioned, doctor, can really be an enemy.
It wears on you, and I guess that, and that's the problem. They always say when I studied psychiatry in medical school, they always say that the chances of breaking the depression or breaking this whatever mental illness you may have is to understand and have knowledge of your condition. If you feel that if you know that you're depressed and you're anxious, there's a better outcome, because you have insight that, okay, you know what, I'm feeling depressed because of X, Y, and Z. If you're oblivious to that and you feel like you're okay, even though your family members are telling you that you're not, that something's going on, and you're not the same way, you don't look the same, you don't talk the same, you don't act the same. If you're oblivious to your situation, then the prognosis is a lot poorer, than you understanding that, okay, you know what, I feel that this is causing my depression, the fact that I can't do the things I can do. Let me see if there's a way out, and kind of open up the opportunity to go to, for example, an ALF or another place that you can do a little bit more than what you're doing right now. And I think that those people do a lot better. But but you know what? There are some patients of mine that actually, they come see me because they don't have that interaction. They come and see me every week. Every week, all of them die. They're 30 minutes early for their appointment because they don't have anybody, and they don't interact socially with anybody else, but they've lost, just like you said, a lot of their freedoms. They have a transport bus that brings them there. They can't go to the beach anymore because of, you know, they have got skin cancer and, you know, certain other things. And they used to love the beach, you know, things like that. And, you know, their joy is to come see the doctor, you know, and chat it up with me for about 30 minutes.
So you almost become family in that situation.
Oh, absolutely. But, you know, to be honest with you, I think every patient in a little bit is kind of family, because if you think about it, you know, when you see somebody for the first time, your body is the most intimate part of you, right? Imagine you're coming to somebody and telling them every intricate detail about your body from head to toe. Whether it's, your privates to your heart to your, I mean, you know, you tell the doctor things you may not even tell your spouse. You know, I'm being honest. There's some guys and gals that I speak to that I know more about them than their spouse does with regards to their body. And so that is the most intimate thing that you can have. I mean, and so obviously you have to form a relationship, you know, in a way, you know, patient-doctor relationship, but it's still intimate relationship, you know. And you know, and I see it that way too. And that's why you're supposed to respect and listen to them and hear them out and guide your care based on what they tell you, rather than just a bunch of numbers and, oh, well, your x-ray says this, so this is what we're going to do. Okay, this sounds done. All right, goodbye. You know?
It's so true, though, that doctor-patient relationship and building those relationships are so important.
Oh yeah. Because it is intimate. It is very intimate, you know. And so you know, I think that every patient is kind of like a family. You know, they're almost like family. The first time you see them, you go over everything with them. It's almost like establishing with a family, you know, member, you know, and they become family to you, especially when you keep seeing them over and over again.
That's like the residents at Harbor Place. They are our family. They become our family. We spend a lot of time with them and just building those relationships. It's just and wonderful to hear their stories and where they came from and you know what they did as a younger adult.
Well, and what's really good about Harbor Place, Pat, is that you guys really celebrate, whether it's birthdays or whatever it is, with them. And that is, I mean, the entire Harbor Place becomes their family then. It's cool.
It is. I love it.
How do folks schedule a tour with you?
All they have to do is give me a call. You call our main number, which is 772-337-4330. Ask for Pat, and I'll be more than happy to take them around our community.
Yeah, and I suppose you've seen most of the building in the 12 years you've been there, right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Oh, boy. And doctor, how do folks get in touch with you unless you're on your rounds at Harbor Place on Thursdays?
Well, you know, they just call my clinic and you know, they can set up an appointment at any point in time. 772-208-3057.
Okay, and where are you located?
I'm located in Jensen Beach Plaza, Jensen Beach, Home Depot Plaza, right between the Ale House and the subway.
Oh, listen to him. Of course, he picks on two restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're feeling anything, any heartburn, just come right next door. I got you.
Sounds great. That's good. Yeah. Oh boy. Well, the really unique stuff that you have talked about, I think as we age, things are different. And as Pat mentioned, I think that real important event you've got coming up basically on food, because food does affect you differently. I notice even some things that I used to love in my 40s and 50s, maybe even 60s, I just kind of stay away from now.
Mhm.
And, you know, there was another thing, and I just had a talk with a patient about this, and this is extremely important. I don't know if anybody has ever gotten allergy testing and allergy panels, especially in Florida, where we have a lot of like, you know, grass and flowers. And not only that, you know, a patient was very shocked to be surprised that she's allergic to shrimp and, you know, gluten. We did a blood panel on her because she's got chronic allergies, chronic, you know, her eyes are always puffy. She's always having reflux. And come to find out that she's allergic to certain foods that she's been eating for so long and all her life. And the problem is that she's developed this chronic inflammation, you know, every time she eats it. And she didn't realize that she was having gastritis and everything related to the food that she's been allergic to. We cut that out of her diet, and, you know, her eyes are not puffy anymore. She's not on medication. She's just on, you know, a specific diet that is tailored to eating things that she's not allergic to. And so you'd be surprised that, you know, food plays an important part in somebody's illness. You know, they told her she'd be having Nasonex and Claritin all her life because she's just allergic to the environment, you know. And all it took was blood work and identification of what she's allergic to, and try to avoid those elements. And now she's living a normal life. So, you know, I think that, you know, patients need to go and talk to their doctors about, especially food. I don't know why most patients come to the doctor when there's a problem. A lot of times, sometimes you got to go to the doctor to prevent things from happening, you know, and, you know, to do allergy testing, to just run some random blood work to see where you're at, you know, make sure you eat right, exercise, and to prevent, you know, these things from happening, from high blood pressure and strokes from happening, you know, things like that. So, you know, we're not just there just to fix the problem. We're here to prevent the problem as well.
So how elaborate are those allergy tests?
They're pretty specific only because when they run it through the blood, they actually test it based on, you know, these antigens in the blood. So if your blood is reacting to something, then that means you're highly allergic, because that's something that your immune system is reacting right away in your blood, right? So the blood test shows you a little bit more. Now the skin is a little different. So sometimes you can be allergic to something with the skin, but you know, it's a very mild allergy where, you know, your blood won't react to it, but your skin does, you know, that type of thing. So skin allergies are a little minor. Blood allergies are more severe, more like anaphylaxis type of thing, you know. So yeah, I would just do both, you know, and try to avoid both as much as possible. Whatever comes back as abnormal.
Interesting.
So I hate to get into money, but how expensive are those tests?
Well, I've for my patients, I've actually negotiated with Quest Diagnostics to have like a flat rate. It's covered on all insurances. So if you have insurance, you know, there should be no cost for these tests. And I think Quest has you know, basically contracts with all insurance, including Medicaid. So there should be no charge for that as long as you have insurance. But if you had to pay out of pocket, if you don't have insurance, at most you'll pay probably about $100, $150 for that. So it's not much.
It's actually quite reasonable.
Not bad. Yes. I thought you were going to say it was a lot more.
Yeah, but you know, you go to these exotic places, you probably get a package for like you know, $599 or $700. I just, you know, as a doctor, I'm a doctor first, and I'm a businessman second. Okay, so if I have to, you know, I really and truly, any of these ancillary things, I kind of, I do it for my patients. If I negotiate with Quest, whatever the price they come back with is the price that I give my patients. I'm not trying to make money off of it. I'm not trying to, wheeling deal because I'm a doctor first. And so, you know, anything I can do to help my patients, that's the number one thing.
That's wonderful.
I just think that's truly amazing. And again, Pat, you've got them every Thursday, right?
Yes, we do. Yes,
Well,
we
tell
do.
us a little bit about the next two events that you've got going.
Well, the one on November 18th is Eating Healthy as You Age. And that's Thursday, November 18th at 2 p.m. Please give us a call to RSVP. Dr. Vassar is going to be talking about the different types of food, healthy food choices as you age, and the impact of certain foods have on the most common medical conditions. So that's going to be interesting. And then on December 2nd, and actually Dr. Watt is participating in this event. He's going to be donating a wreath, and we're going to have our live auction on December 2nd at 2 p.m. And the proceeds are going to the Alzheimer's Association.
That's great. Now, are these events open to the public or?
Yes, they are. So if you'd like to come and bid on a beautiful wreath, please call us at 772-337-4330 and RSVP for both of these events.
And I think on your business side, you do have availabilities in both the 1 and 2 bedrooms.
Yes, we do. We do. Beautiful views overlooking the pool and courtyard.
Yep. But it is, as the doctor was saying, it's like a park. It really is when you start.
I've already reserved mine.
Well, yeah, me too. I'm almost ready. When I look around at all these home projects, I'm thinking, you know what? It may be time, Oh boy, that's
It's time to really retire.
Yep, that's it. Well, now, what about now? Do you also have? Obviously, we're getting into our version of winter when it only is 70. But do you get a lot of Northerners coming in and as snowbird residents?
Yes, we do. In fact, we have a few right now that just came in. So they'll be with us until May. And then they'll go back. And from all over, from France. We have a resident that comes from France every year. She comes in October and she stays until the end of March, beginning of April. She goes back to France.
Wow, that's
mhm.
amazing.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
wonderful.
that is amazing. Huh.
From New York and from North Carolina. So we have a few.
Very cool. Well,
Mhm.
I just think that's amazing. And for folks who have not taken advantage, you just have to. And feel free to give Pat a call, and she's there most of the time. And we'll take you through. And it would help though if they schedule a visit, but if need be, if they're just out driving around, they could stop in as well, right?
Absolutely. There'll always be someone to take them around.
That's great. That's great. Well, Dr. Watt, we've got about 3 minutes left. Any final thoughts as far as what you're thinking about today?
Well, I guess the only take-home message is to eat right, exercise regularly, and go see your doctor.
That's a pretty good message. And if you're a guy, tell the doctor something. Just
That's right.
don't walk in and say, I'm fine.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Which is what I'm guilty of. It's a guy thing.
It is. And most definitely.
It's amazing. Well, hey, thank you both. This has been a good show, very enlightening. And again, Pat, your phone number and how they can get you at Harbor Place?
772-337-4330.
And doctor, your phone number again?
772-208-3057.
Sounds good. Well, thank you both. This has been a really good show. Never alone. And that's the whole key. Harbor Place is a wonderful community. There's no doubt about it. So stop on by and Pat will be there to give you your exclusive tour of Harbor Place. Thank you so much, guys. See you next week.
Bye. Thanks, Greg.